Purple Earth was already in winter while Seven Blood Eyes was still in late autumn. Heavy snow covered the ancient city, burying its dark red palaces and buildings and leaving very few pedestrians on the streets. The falling snow, silent streets, and numb expressions of the people created an atmosphere of decline and oppression. Purple Earth had once been the imperial capital of the Nanyuan continent. 10,000 years earlier, the Purple-Green Kingdom had unified Nanyuan under the symbol of the flame phoenix. But it eventually collapsed because of internal strife. Its inheritance, wealth, and bloodline were divided among the rebellious factions, which later became the orthodox 8 great families. These families occupied Purple Earth, divided the city into 8 territories, and continued worshipping the flame phoenix. Unlike Seven Blood Eyes, which prioritized benefits, Purple Earth valued bloodline, rules, and family traditions, although Seven Blood Eyes had once been weaker. Ancestor Shui Lianzi's breakthrough allowed it to surpass Purple Earth, while Purple Earth remained isolated and looked down on the outside world. Believing its bloodline to be the most noble, Grandmaster Bai had been one of the few people who challenged this tradition. He wanted Purple Earth to develop together with the outside human alliance. But his ideas conflicted with the family system and caused him to become immortal. Relying on his extraordinary talent in the Tao of plants and vegetation, he forged another path, developed numerous pill formulas, and eventually surpassed cultivators in this field despite being mortal. He became regarded as the greatest alchemist in the Nanyuan continent, earning the admiration even of powerful cultivators from Seven Blood Eyes. However, he remained restricted by Purple Earth's rules because he was only a collateral descendant of the Bai family and lacked the status of a direct bloodline heir. During a heavy blizzard, Grandmaster Bai's body was buried in the Bai family's public cemetery. His corpse was sealed inside a crystal coffin, but it was already turning black and rotting because of the powerful poison that had killed him. Because of his bloodline, he was not qualified to enter the family's imperial mausoleum, and he had already chosen to be buried in the public cemetery while he was alive. Tingyu knelt before his grave and cried bitterly. 2 years had passed, and she had grown into a young woman. But Grandmaster Bai's death had completely shattered her world. Beside her stood Chen Feiyuan, the eldest grandson of the Chen family, who had pushed for the teleportation blockade after Grandmaster Bai's death and was filled with intense killing intent toward the murderer. Neither of them noticed a middle-aged man quietly watching from a nearby alley. He wore a plain hemp robe and looked ordinary, but his eyes were filled with grief, and his right hand had shattered the wall from gripping it too tightly. After everyone gradually left the cemetery, Tingyu and Chen Feiyuan remained until the end. Tingyu weakly asked whether he would come. Chen Feiyuan understood that she meant Shu Qing and angrily said that if Shu Qing intended to come, he would have arrived long ago. The middle-aged man silently passed them and eventually reached Grandmaster Bai's grave. He knelt before the tombstone and whispered, "Teacher." He was Shu Qing, who had teleported to Purple Earth immediately after learning of Grandmaster Bai's burial. Knowing that his Taoist robe was too conspicuous and would hinder his investigation, he had changed his appearance before coming. Looking at the tombstone caused immense pain to spread through Shu Qing's chest. He had only knelt before 2 tombstones in his life, Captain Lei's and Grandmaster Bai's. He vowed to find both the murderer and the mastermind behind his teacher's death. Shu Qing placed a wine gourd before the grave, saying that Captain Lei had told him Grandmaster Bai liked to drink, so he would accompany his teacher. He drank some wine, poured some before the tomb, and then told Grandmaster Bai that he had already memorized the grasswood scripture. Shu Qing began reciting the knowledge his teacher had left behind, including the descriptions of gold-turned grass, rhino fire flower, soul fusion fog, and other medicinal plants, carefully recounting their names, properties, effects, and origins. As he recited, he seemed to see Grandmaster Bai's figure once again, drinking and smiling at him with relief. Shu Qing continued until night fell, when his shadow suddenly transmitted a message that it had found the culprit. Shu Qing immediately raised his head, silently looked at Grandmaster Bai's tombstone, and kowtowed 3 times. When he stood up, astonishing killing intent erupted from his body, and he disappeared into the darkness. Not long afterward, Tingyu, Chen Feiyuan, and his followers returned to the cemetery. Chen Feiyuan questioned whether Tingyu had really recognized the middle-aged man. Tingyu firmly replied that she had recognized Shu Qing's gaze and, after thinking carefully, was certain that the man who had just left was Shu Qing. Grandmaster Bai's grave was visited by someone after Tingyu and Chen Feiyuan had left. When Tingyu arrived in the darkness and saw that no one was there, she initially thought it was impossible for Qing to still remember their teacher. However, after examining the grave, she sensed that someone had been there and softly said that he had come. Chen Feiyuan then noticed the faint fragrance of wine lingering in front of the grave, showing that someone had paid respects after they departed. Although he suspected that the person was Qing, he tried to deny it and said that even if it really was him, it would not change anything. Tingyu wanted to say something but hesitated. Chen Feiyuan explained that although Qing now possessed a glorious position in the Seven Blood Eyes and had entered the sequence, he was still like duckweed as long as he did not acknowledge Old Master Seventh as his master. He also believed that Grandmaster Bai's matter was extremely difficult for Qing to handle and told Tingyu not to imagine that Qing had come to visit them. He said that they would take revenge for their teacher themselves. Chen Feiyuan then brought Tingyu, who was bitter and distracted, back to her residence before leaving for the Chen family. On the way, one of his longtime followers asked whether the ingrate he had mentioned was Qing, whose reputation had spread throughout the southern wasteland. Chen Feiyuan immediately turned around and slapped the follower so hard that he was sent flying. After the follower knelt down in fear, Chen Feiyuan explained that he called Qing an ingrate because, regardless of his own feelings, he could still be considered Qing's senior brother. Although he did not particularly like Qing, Grandmaster Bai had acknowledged Qing as his disciple, so Chen Feiyuan also acknowledged him. He coldly questioned the follower about who gave him the right to insult Qing in front of him. Because the follower had served him for many years, Chen Feiyuan said he would at least give him a proper funeral, then ordered the other followers to kill him by breaking his neck. Chen Feiyuan did not even look at the corpse and instead began considering the situation surrounding Grandmaster Bai's death. He ordered all the spies he had secretly cultivated over the years to be activated and instructed them to closely monitor the movements of the Golden Core experts belonging to the 8 great families. He was willing to give those spies whatever they wanted in exchange for information. His followers were shocked that he intended to activate every spy, but Chen Feiyuan insisted that all of them had to be used. He was worried about Qing's current strength and suspected that Purple Earth might also be involved in what had happened to Grandmaster Bai. If Qing entered Purple Earth directly, he might place himself in danger. Chen Feiyuan believed that Qing's decision not to meet him and Tingyu had actually been correct. Tingyu was innocent and was more suited to alchemy research, but her temperament was not firm enough. If she accidentally revealed even a small clue about Qing's presence, others could discover that he had come and might be tempted by the bounty offered by the Sea Corpse race. Chen Feiyuan also suspected that someone might deliberately be using Grandmaster Bai's death to lure Qing out. It could be an attempt to achieve 2 goals at once, or someone might simply be using Grandmaster Bai's death as bait to set a trap and obtain some benefit. Chen Feiyuan hoped that his suspicions were excessive. Over the past 2 years, Chen Feiyuan had changed considerably after returning to Purple Earth and gaining authority within his family. His wisdom and ability to scheme had developed greatly, while Grandmaster Bai's ideals had deeply influenced him. Because of this, he also hated the current state of Purple Earth. After giving his orders, he asked 2 followers whether everything had been arranged. The 2 men nodded, but immediately afterward their bodies trembled. Their faces turned black, and they vomited blood before dying. Chen Feiyuan calmly explained to himself that they should not blame him because he did not trust them either. Since they had completed their work, he could only send them on their way. In the entire Purple Earth, the only people he truly trusted were Grandmaster Bai and Tingyu. With Grandmaster Bai dead, only Tingyu remained. He also considered Qing someone who could be trusted. Chen Feiyuan wondered whether Qing had discovered the Daybreak Scattered Decay pill. Given Qing's understanding of plants and vegetation, Chen Feiyuan believed that Qing should be able to follow the clues left by the poison on Grandmaster Bai's body. After dealing with the corpses, Chen Feiyuan left. At the same time, Qing was moving silently through the darkness of Purple Earth's capital. His aura did not leak out at all, and his expression remained cold as he rapidly advanced. Qing had deliberately avoided meeting Tingyu and Chen Feiyuan because he did not want to create additional complications. He clearly understood how valuable he currently was and had already considered the possibility that Grandmaster Bai's death might be used as bait to lure him into Purple Earth. However, Xu Qing believed that even if another force was involved, it was probably unrelated to the faction that had assassinated Grandmaster Bai. From the loss of the Lunar Chosen Transformation Pill's pill formula, he had already inferred that the enemy was preparing something on a large scale. Xu Qing narrowed his eyes and reasoned that if someone really was trying to lure him out, there was a high possibility that the people of Purple Earth were involved. Although he considered that he might be thinking too much, he remained extremely cautious. He scattered poison powder over his body to conceal his aura and continued moving through the capital. Xu Qing had already discovered traces and clues related to the suspected murderer. The red jade slip that Old Master Seventh had given him had described the characteristics of the enemy and specifically indicated that the murderer belonged to the bizarre Fiend race. A race that was extremely difficult to capture. Although the captain had given Xu Qing a method, Xu Qing had his own way of finding the murderer. Anyone who cultivated anomalous substances could not escape the Shadow's sharp senses. Since the Shadow fed on anomalous substances, although Purple Earth City contained many cultivators with dense anomalous substances, including the aura of the Forbidden Sea greatly narrowed the range of possible targets. Xu Qing only needed to identify the true murderer among the few candidates marked by the Shadow. He believed Grandmaster Bai's alchemy attainments must have allowed him to leave behind a clue. By examining his teacher's corpse in the crystal coffin and sensing it through the soil before the grave, Xu Qing confirmed that the poison in Grandmaster Bai's body was the Daybreak Scattered Decay pill. This pill nourished the body when consumed over a long period but accelerated decomposition after death, usually turning a corpse into liquid within 24 hours. Grandmaster Bai had refined it himself, making it one of his unique formulas. Outsiders only knew its general effects, while his disciples knew that its main ingredient was soul-melting fog, also known as closed heavenly eyes, a high-level spirit herb born from fog that could fuse a mark with the soul and was extremely difficult to detect or remove. Xu Qing realized this was the clue Grandmaster Bai had deliberately left behind. The murderer's soul would inevitably be contaminated by the nearly undetectable soul-melting fog, and Xu Qing knew how to detect it. Following the 3 locations marked by the Shadow, Xu Qing first investigated an inn but found nothing and concluded that the target was not there. He then went to the second location, a commoner's residence in Purple Earth's Imperial City. Although there was no cultivation fluctuation or anomalous substance aura, the Shadow detected something unusual. Xu Qing immediately entered the house and attacked the old man inside. The old man revealed astonishing movement despite emitting no cultivation aura. Dodging Xu Qing's black iron stick and appearing before him, he recognized that Xu Qing had found him and tried to remove Xu Qing's disguise. But Xu Qing suddenly unleashed overwhelming physical strength, striking him with a knee that crushed his chest and shattered his flesh and bones. Xu Qing then released his fiendish fire, but discovered that the old man had no soul. He used Golden Crow Refines All Life, which absorbed the old man's body and transformed it into qi and blood, leaving only a piece of skin behind. The Shadow enveloped the skin and directed Xu Qing toward the next location. Xu Qing understood that the bizarre fiend race was strange and difficult to kill, but believed that repeated attacks would eventually prevent the enemy from escaping. He also realized that because the old man had died too quickly under Golden Crow Refines All Life, he had absorbed only a small amount of the opponent's origin. Meanwhile, at the Zhou family, one of the 8 great families, a sleeping handyman suddenly opened his eyes. He was the bizarre fiend race member Xu Qing had attacked. Having revived through and parasitized the handyman, he was shocked that Xu Qing had found him and possessed enough strength to directly suppress his vessel, whose combat power was comparable to 3 fires. Because of his talent limitations, he could only parasitize mortals and had to slowly nurture each vessel before displaying his full strength. He cursed the unexpected situation, believing that the sealed teleportation could not remain sealed for long. But now an unusual cultivator had appeared. Nevertheless, he felt safe because his current vessel was a servant of the Zhou family and lived within the Zhou family's imperial palace territory. He believed Xu Qing would die if he dared to enter without the Zhou family's assistance. The night passed under his vigilance. The next morning, a scar-faced burly man with qi condensation cultivation entered the handyman quarters. The other handymen were terrified of him because he was a trusted aide of the Zhou family who often beat and cursed them, with many handymen having been beaten to death by him. He walked directly toward the handyman possessed by the bizarre fiend race. Suddenly drew a saber, stabbed him through the heart, pulled it out, and slit his throat. The parasitized handyman could only widen his eyes in confusion and disbelief. The scar-faced man then laughed sinisterly, cut open his own stomach, pulled out his intestines, wrapped them around the handyman's neck, and whispered that his master sent his greetings and that the game had just begun. The bizarre fiend's body suddenly died. But in the Purple Earth Bi-family's territory, a skinny youth among a group of homeless people suddenly opened his eyes. He instinctively touched his neck, revealing fear and confusion. He was the bizarre fiend race cultivator whose second host was hidden in the Zhou family's territory. He had originally believed that Xu Qing could not find him without involving the Zhou family and had even planned to use the situation to escape and reveal the terrifying abilities of the bizarre fiend race. He also believed that Purple Earth's teleportation blockade would only last 3 to 5 days, after which he could escape even if Golden Core or Nascent Soul cultivators killed his host. However, Xu Qing had found his second identity extremely quickly, and the strange feeling Xu Qing gave him, especially when he pulled out his own intestines, wrapped them around his neck, and said, "My master greets you. He asked me to tell you that the game has just begun," made him realize that he was in trouble. He hesitated over activating a body he had prepared outside the city because doing so would force him to leave Purple Earth. So he decided to remain hidden and wait for the blockade to end. He then went toward the teleportation array, intending to stay nearby while waiting for it to be unsealed and to see whether the mysterious person could find him again. Less than an hour later, however, as he passed another alley, a hand suddenly covered his mouth and prevented him from biting his tongue. He was dragged into an abandoned house, where he discovered that the person who had captured him was the same middle-aged cultivator who had killed his first host. Xu Qing broke his chin so he could not commit suicide, then scattered a specially prepared poison powder over him. The poison heightened his body's sensitivity to pain and other stimuli. Xu Qing crushed his fingers one by one, then his hands and arms, while using medicinal pills to keep him conscious. He continued by cutting his legs and skin with a dagger without allowing him to die. Although the bizarre fiend screamed in agony, he did not display the fear Xu Qing expected. Instead, he eventually revealed that he could transmit pain through his voice and deliberately provoked Xu Qing by saying that he knew Xu Qing wanted revenge for Grandmaster Bai and was probably trying to discover the mastermind behind him. He claimed to know all the answers but refused to reveal them. He also taunted Xu Qing by saying he had originally intended to parasitize Tingyu but eventually chose someone else to kill Grandmaster Bai. Xu Qing's terrifying aura intensified, causing the bizarre fiend to tremble. The cultivator realized that Xu Qing's ruthlessness was far beyond what he had expected and understood that Xu Qing had likely carried out such torture many times before. Believing Xu Qing was a lunatic, he deliberately tried to provoke him into killing him, since he already had an irreversible death time set for each host body and now wanted to die earlier. Xu Qing then activated the black flames from the totemic tattoo on his back, causing them to merge into his right hand. When he pressed his palm against the bizarre fiend's forehead, a powerful suction force erupted, rapidly withering the cultivator's body and drawing out his qi and blood. The intense emotional fluctuations caused by the torture finally exposed a trace of origin fog, which Xu Qing extracted. This was the origin power of the bizarre fiend race, something Xu Qing had failed to absorb during his previous attack. Before the bizarre fiend died, Xu Qing finally spoke his only sentence during the entire torture: "It's not over. We'll see each other in a while." The abandoned house fell completely silent. Xu Qing closed his eyes and sensed the trace of origin source absorbed by the golden crow. Although it was too weak to be used properly, it was sufficient for tracking. Xu Qing realized that he would need to kill the bizarre fiend dozens of times to accumulate enough origin source. His shadow had spread over the blood on the ground and permeated the dried corpse before returning, indicating another direction and asking Xu Qing to let it capture the bizarre fiend. Xu Qing agreed, as the earlier torture had not only been driven by his viciousness and his desire to have the golden crow devour the bizarre fiend, but also to give the shadow enough time to devour its target's shadow and determine its location accurately. Combined with the trace of origin energy, this allowed him to track the bizarre fiend regardless of where it hid. Xu Qing then concealed himself, increasingly aware that someone had been secretly observing him. and he did not want Purple Earth to discover his presence. An hour later, outside the eastern gate of Purple Earth's capital, the bizarre fiend cultivator disguised himself as a wealthy-looking young man and queued to leave the city. He deliberately chose not to use the body outside the city because his innate ability had a range limit. And the capital contained the greatest number of living beings, allowing him to display his ability most effectively. He planned to fake his departure, lure his pursuer away, and return immediately, since losing this body would not affect him greatly. After being discovered 3 times, he knew that Xu Qing possessed a method of tracking him, but he could not determine what it was. His uneasiness intensified after witnessing Xu Qing's cruelty and hearing his final words. And after reviving this time, he also felt as though he had lost something extremely important. For the first time, he sensed a genuine life and death crisis and found it difficult to believe that anyone could lock onto him. Unbeknownst to him, an eye had already appeared in the shadow of a nearby city guard and observed him. As he approached the city gate, a mosquito landed silently on his neck and stabbed his blood vessel. Transmitting, "My master greets you." It then exploded, releasing the small black bugs inside its body into him. The youth trembled and screamed miserably before collapsing and rolling on the ground as his body finally turned into a pool of blood. At the same time, a city guard trembled, and after his eyes closed and opened again, he had been replaced by another person. He tried to leave amid the chaos but suddenly stopped as his body became uncontrollable. A strange laugh escaped him as he said, "Aha, I've made a contribution. I caught you." The shadow had planted eyes in the shadows of the surrounding guards and people, allowing it to monitor everyone nearby and wait for the bizarre fiend to arrive. The bizarre fiend had completely fallen into the shadow's trap and was overwhelmed with fear after realizing that he had encountered an existence even more terrifying than himself. The shadow-controlled guard then happily brought him to another abandoned house, where Xu Qing was calmly waiting. After seeing Xu Qing, the guard knelt and repeatedly slapped his own face under the shadow's control. Xu Qing then addressed someone outside the door, saying that since he had arrived, there was no reason not to enter. A young man in a gorgeous robe and a glowing jade pendant emerged from the distortion outside. It was Chen Feiyuan. Xu Qing sensed that Chen Feiyuan had almost no cultivation aura and was only at the qi condensation realm. Yet he felt a dangerous presence from him. Xu Qing realized that Chen Feiyuan had become a treasure nurturer. But Chen Feiyuan explained that he was not a treasure nurturer. As a direct descendant of one of Purple Earth's 8 great families, he could form a symbiotic relationship with his family's soul magic treasure. After returning, he had already begun forming such a relationship with part of the treasure. And this was one of the reasons the patriarchs of the 8 families possessed astonishing combat strength. Their cultivation depended not only on cultivation itself but also heavily on their bloodlines. Chen Feiyuan explained that the royal family of the Purple-Green Kingdom originally possessed the bloodline talent to form symbiotic relationships with all magic treasures. The 8 races had later plundered this bloodline, and after countless years of breeding and adaptation, they had integrated the ability into their own bloodlines. Chen Feiyuan congratulated Xu Qing on becoming a sequence of the 7 blood eyes. While Xu Qing remarked that Chen Feiyuan had changed greatly, Chen Feiyuan explained that he had grown up and had also been influenced by Grandmaster Bai's inheritance and the magic treasure. He then looked at the bizarre fiend with killing intent and asked if it was the one Xu Qing had been pursuing. Xu Qing confirmed that it was one of its bodies. Chen Feiyuan recalled visiting the place where Xu Qing had previously fought it and smelling the blood there. Then asked Xu Qing to let him deal with it. Xu Qing agreed and left the house while the shadow relinquished control. Mournful cries and screams immediately came from inside, lasting for the time it took an incense stick to burn, with the suffering nearly matching what Xu Qing had inflicted previously. When Chen Feiyuan emerged, his body was still trembling. His eyes were red, and the cruelty and madness in his heart had not yet subsided. He told Xu Qing that Tingyu had guessed Xu Qing was in Purple Earth, but he had denied it. He had also concealed Xu Qing's arrival from the Purple Earth families, although he could not maintain the information seal for long and would do his best to delay its discovery. He urged Xu Qing to take revenge for Grandmaster Bai peacefully and leave as soon as possible, warning that a major crisis would arise otherwise. The old cultivators who refused to die and were tempted by the Sea Corp's race's bounty were willing to do anything to survive and had already lost their humanity. After telling Xu Qing to take care, Chen Feiyuan left. Shu Qing watched him and called out, "Senior brother, take care." Shu Qing could see a trace of Grandmaster Bai's temperament in Chen Feiyuan, the hatred toward Purple Earth and the determination to change it. Chen Feiyuan stopped but did not turn around, continuing forward with increasing determination until he disappeared into the void.